Live? One day.
And then 5 minutes later.
Yeah. One day we'll be actual professionals and not do that whole thing where we say we talk about are we live or not yet. That is not today though.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
That's never going to happen, you're right.
Oh wait, that's not
But we're back. Loose Canon is back with their 7th episode. It's been almost a year now, and that's what it is.
When was the first episode that we did?
It had to be October, right?
Yeah.
Early October?
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Why does June feel accurate?
I don't think it was...
Because it was June.
Was it June?
It's June because the Loose Canon birthday is June 2018.
That sounds... October sounds more correct, but no, it must have been before October.
That's...
I mean, it was before Forsaken, wasn't it?
We are... Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We are bad. We are bad at this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean...
We're good.
It's just each episode is just extra special because you never know when the next one is going to be.
It's like a Game of Thrones book.
Yeah.
When's the next one coming?
Yeah.
Who knows?
How to build an audience.
Yeah. How to be consistent.
Ah.
All right. Well,
Cool.
This week, for everyone tuning in, we are talking about the Black Armory. Kind of again, because we kind of gave a little bit of a speculation on our last episode months ago. Oh my God, months ago.
Yeah, well, it was we talked about the Black Armory just after the first forge became available, and so obviously at that point the
Very
Black
little
Armory,
known.
yeah, the Black Armory papers you couldn't get them in the game. So there was a lot of kind of speculation. We didn't really know how this expansion was going to work. Yeah, and a lot has happened over the last 2 months, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really offered the Black Armory, as a whole, offered a lot in terms of the lore because it goes back so far. We're actually seeing the Golden Age. This is the third or fourth time that we've gotten a glimpse in the Golden Age. We've gotten the Jacob Hardy Eververse set, the Clovis Bray info during the Rise of Iron, and the Black Armory info now. This one is by far my favorite because it really showed how it really painted the dark light on everything, even the Golden Age, beginning in the Golden Age into the Dark Age through the collapse. We've never had anything, almost never had anything in the collapse. There is that one card about how the moon ripped open during the collapse, and there was the moon scientist who had a front row seat to it happening, and but that was just that was something that happened, and we didn't really have any info on it. This walked us through people surviving the collapse, which is outstanding.
Yeah, this is really the only... So we have some information from Cade's journal.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, but that's very fragmented, and it's some of the things that Cade talks about in those entries are kind of, because it's so fragmented, it's hard to know how much we can trust that as a source. He jumps between... As he's recalling all of these memories, he's jumping between different points in time.
Yeah.
Whereas this, a lot of these entries were written and recorded while those things were taking place. They're not like somebody now looking back and recounting what happened. It's somebody at the time recording what actually happened on a almost not a day by day basis, but on a regular basis.
Yeah. And really with Cade, he's an exo. He's had his memory wiped. He's been revived as a guardian. There's so many things where it becomes what really happened. Are you misremembering? Is this a dream? Is this just your mind kind of breaking? Like, what is metaphorical? What is reality? You know, it's so much of it is up in the air that like it can't really be trusted. While the Black Armory papers are very just, these are journal entries of someone who not only survived the collapse but was preparing for it. Like they were like, something is going to happen and we want to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
It's like a good account of what was being witnessed at the time when all these first encounters were happening.
I think that we talk when we see a lot of entries from the Golden Age, that they talk about how brilliant a time it was.
Yeah.
We've touched before. I know so many people have touched before on the the fact that why would humanity build this defense network like Rasputin? Why would there be such a sense of paranoia during the Golden Age? And I think the entries in the Black Armory papers really capture that.
I think it was actually in the first one that they actually just to explain, the Black Armory papers are the journal entries from Henriette Myron, who was the original founder of the Black Armory, and very early on in the entries, in the second entry 25, which is technically the 25th entry, but the second one that we can obtain, she writes, "We are not alone with the traveler. Something else has been detected out there, an anomaly of sorts. I'm lucky to have friends in informative places who tell me these things." So basically, there were people who are like, something else is there, and it was just kind of up in the air. Like was it another traveler? Was it something dark? Was it another alien species that's like, hey, we see you have the traveler too. He visited us once before, or she visited us once before, and now we can all be friends. Like, what was it going to be? And it's better to be prepared. At least that's their philosophy. It's better to be prepared for the possibility that whatever is coming is not coming with good intents.
Yeah, what strikes me about the papers is they were obviously having a conversation with outside people to prepare for this. But the Black Armory was so secretive in their preparation. It was all like a Y2K, It's like, we're preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
It's hey, we know something's happening. You better get prepared. By the way, keep it a secret. Oh, okay, we're gonna start now. That's what I got the feeling was when I first saw the first two papers.
I mean, Y2K was actually an issue, but all right.
Yeah, and then nothing happened.
No, because they prepared.
Or did it?
Yes.
Just,
or did it?
Just to say that, like
I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that, because a lot of people talk about how it wasn't an issue.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Y2K. Yeah, no, it wasn't an issue because it was something
so
that
many
could be,
people.
Yeah. Because just for people who don't know, it's because how computers logged dates, they logged it with the last 2 digits of the year. So Y2K being the first time 00 was going to appear, they weren't sure how the computers were going to handle that. They were like, oh, fuck, that's going to mess some things up, which somehow got spun into, your toaster's going to kill you.
Right. I remember the thought is that it matched the what was it, the shutdown code in binary at one time, and so people were spreading the belief that once the date turns over on the internal clock in your computer, everything's just gonna disappear.
Yeah,
and so
planes are gonna fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that one of the things that a lot of people were worried about is that if you've got like a lookup table for like prices, what should you be charging on this date, and then it goes to 00, is that going to be, if you have the 1900, the prices for your, I think it's unlikely, but if you have the prices for your products in 1900, is it suddenly going to start using 1900 prices? I mean, I don't know. Right. Companies spent a lot of money on making sure that
when gas prices went over $2, all the gas pumps, all the gas stations had to buy digital signs or upgrade their signs to accommodate the bigger number.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is at the end of Y2K, I mean, people were buying Hummers. They were making huge vehicles. People were buying just excessive crud. All these all these things were just, coming out of the woodwork. Like, oh, who cares? We're not gonna be here tomorrow anyway. Let's just buy whatever we can.
You know what's interesting? This is only slightly related. There was a snowstorm in Ireland last year in like March, and people bought so much bread. It's insane how much bread was bought.
You need bread.
Which isn't.
It's gonna
well,
snow.
you do need. Well, but it's not. It's like it's a pretty perishable item. Like, you
Sure.
should be buying tins of things.
Yeah.
People don't know how to prepare for a
Corn.
disaster. Yeah.
You need
tinned
your
tuna.
bread and your milk and your eggs.
Yeah, the important things, so we can last through this
One
weekend.
day. Yeah.
I don't know. People are crazy.
Yeah.
Henry
It's like that. with
Henriette
natural
Myron
disaster.
wasn't crazy.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't crazy, but there is this kind of like a disaster preparedness that she's talking about. That's like, it's reminiscent of some of the things that have happened during our lifetime, but obviously to a much greater degree.
Yeah. So kind of
Right.
actually skipping to the next entry 37. So this is what success looks like. We three putting a stake in the ground for what we believe in. Some may disagree with what we're doing. I don't care. We have to champion all that we hold dear, who we are, our values, our cultures, all that we believe in as human beings. This is why we founded the Black Armory. So this is Henriette Myron, Helga Rasmussen, and Yuki Sato. Sato? Is that how we pronounce it? Sato?
I guess.
Yeah, sure.
The three primary founders of the Black Armory, whose purpose was to craft weaponry capable of fighting against whatever might come to us, in the case being the darkness. The Black Armory owes its continued success to them. I am in awe. Helga's formerly from Clovis Bray. She handles the business sides of things. Yuki's, our resident engineer, handles the science and mechanics of it all. So it was kind of a real diverse family of different capabilities.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is good. That diversity always breeds creativity, and I mean, it's been proven just everywhere in every aspect of life. You have a nice diverse blend of types, whether it be age, where they come from, their experiences, and you seem to have much more productivity within that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice to see that extends into this type of canon.
Yeah. So there's something that interests me, and it's kind of about the previous entry, really, but I guess it's related to the first kind of 5 entries, I suppose, really, which is that, one of the things we know that during the Golden Age, there was this element of paranoia, but we didn't know before now that there was something else that had been detected.
Yeah, that we knew about it.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess up until this point, my impression had always been the arrival of the Traveler made people think, well, if this thing comes along and does all this good stuff, who's to say there isn't another thing that's going to come along and do this bad stuff? Like, we don't understand its motives. We don't understand, like, is this the only one? But now, with the first few entries, we have this increased insight, which kind of shows that there was evidence that there was something else on its way.
Right. Before that, it was just murmurs and other important leaders kind of spreading that information, just not in detail.
Yeah.
Like when the speaker would say certain things, we must be prepared, or when Lakshmi would tell us there's a future where we need to be prepared. Things like that were all coming secondhand without really anything in lore.
Yeah.
And you have to really think about it. During the Golden Age, or before the Golden Age, when the Traveler was discovered, there was actually like people who were forming cults, like saying like, "Oh, the Traveler is such a good thing." So how do you handle, like, yeah, we got lucky with the Traveler; it was here for something good. How do you handle an anomaly being detected that you're unsure of, when the first time an anomaly was found, people were worshiping it before it even got here. People are worshiping it. So it's a very easy thing that could like destabilize the country. You can have people who are like, I don't actually like the Traveler. I like whatever that thing I don't know is, and it will just start a civil war just right there because something else is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Trinary star cult. That's the first one that comes to mind when I think about past lore that wasn't explored, like the different cults that existed in the Grimoire.
Well, I mean the Traveler cults from the pre-Golden Age. The people who like heard about it on the news being seen at Jupiter or whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's our new god."
Oh right, yeah, because we learned some of that from the Titan lore.
Yeah, the Quao's heart. I think it's a hunter chest. Yeah,
when they're detecting the anomaly approaching, and they're starting to, you can see how people are starting to group up.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of expected, and that's pretty neat that they put that in there. It shows that the writers have a wide view of what happens when any kind of bigger threat, is coming, or something that's unknown. It's neat that they have picked up on it. They're able to put that down as little things.
Yeah.
I don't know though. Do you think that means? So the question that makes in my mind is: do you think that means that going forward these are hinting to another group out there that maybe believes something else that we may encounter?
What do you mean?
Well, like for instance, the Vanguard in the tower and our home base of operations is very rooted in protecting the city and this little huddle of masses, and then you have the reef, which was protecting their huddle of masses. But do you think that there's another group somewhere out there that we have yet to encounter that believe?
I mean, we know there is.
Right.
The pacifists who are like out in the deep space.
Aphrodite's
group, yeah.
But it's hard to say if there's any relation between that group and the information from. I guess.
I just mean, like, strictly speaking, there is another group out there that we don't have contact with.
But I think that I don't know if these entries necessarily suggest. If you look at what happened to the people involved in we'll get to that. But the people involved with the Black Armory had a pretty bad time. And I don't think that there's any evidence that any of that group went on to create any other groups, with one exception.
They all died, so no.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to avoid spoilers as we went through these, but that's fine.
That's cool. Like except for 801, or actually even kind of technically 801, 8-0 died. So
okay, let's keep going.
Let's keep it.
I wasn't trying to pull us off. I wasn't trying to pull us off the track. I was more leading to a parallel. Like for instance, if you think about why the Black Armor was created, it was like a doomsday preparation. And so they're here. They're very much a force aligned with us now, and they exist within our other alliance as a support group. So they're very much a part of it. And so you have to ask yourself, when the Black Armory is created, it was created for a reason, and we're still a little bit vague as to what that reason is. We just know it was good. We're lucky that it happened because, look, we get to reap the rewards of what we have now. However, that makes me think parallel. And another thought is, well, if that's happening, and then this is our new reality, what is on the way, and should we should be thinking about going forward? Because as we're going to read through the rest of these papers, you're going to understand that what they encountered that wiped them all out, is this going to happen a second time, or are we going to be able to keep that from happening?
I think, well, I mean, we'll get to it, but I absolutely do think whatever came the first time is now coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of skip ahead a little bit to entry 50, that's just skipping over 41. It starts to talk about how Helga brought up the opportunity for the Black Armory to incorporate exos into their like process. And obviously we have the Black Armory Exo 801. Henriette was very against it. She absolutely hates exos. She considers them not human. They don't have a soul. They're nothing but experiments of humans playing God, and thinks essentially what everyone thinks when you start really thinking about hyper-intelligent like AI robots. What happens if they decide they don't like us? How are we going to stop them from just killing us all? I just feel for important reasons we should bring that up. And then also important in this card is they mentioned Titan. Now Titan was introduced in Destiny 2, and if you actually go into Titan, and I think it's in the arcology, if you hang out in the arcology, sometimes you can get the PA dialogue that mentions how we don't know why the Traveler left Io, but we hope it'll come here next, and or something like that, like something kind of like don't worry, we're sure the Traveler leaving Io isn't like a catastrophic event is about to happen. It's just it's a mysterious orb we don't fully understand. It's definitely fine. And
I also got the impression from some of the PA announcements on Titan is that people have kind of settled on Titan with the expectation that like, oh, the Traveler is going to come at some point and make Titan fantastic place just like on the other planets. So we'll get a Titan first.
It's free real estate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They really did build it up as this kind of almost like this cruise ship place.
Yeah.
Hey, come to Titan, where it's gonna be just all glitz and glamour.
Yeah. Get here while it's cheap. As soon as the Traveler comes here and makes the methane oceans soda, it's gonna be fantastic.
Right.
Just go swimming in some Coca-Cola.
Sorry. But Sloane is standing there with her helmet.
What?
She's still there. Yeah, Sloane.
Yeah.
She's still standing there in the open with her helmet off, amidst an ocean of methane.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
I mean, the Titan's got to do, right?
That's space magic. I don't know.
Yeah.
Space magic her sense of smell away.
She's been on Titan for so long that
it has been like canonically like a year. Actually, it's been over a year now with the events of Forsaken.
She can't smell anything anymore.
Yeah, you get used to it.
That's how she got this job.
That was a weird place for Zavala to pick. Like, hey, follow me to the fart planet. Like, let's go. Wouldn't methane oceans be like extremely dangerous for gunfire to be around? Am I wrong? Do I not understand how things work? That sounds dangerous to me.
Yeah, if you have an atmosphere that can support the combustion, then yeah.
Right. Either way, we're getting off topic again.
So it says, on Earth, methane is a flammable gas, but Titan has no oxygen in its atmosphere that could support combustion.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if it did, though, and it just blew up one day?
But that further emphasizes the point that Sloane shouldn't be able to take a helmet off.
Well, she's undead, I guess, technically, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I mean, you could... We still die.
I mean, humans terraformed Venus.
Don't you think it's funny we have these rebreathers,
The
and these
Hesperonauts.
fancy masks that can, filter out sand and all this stuff, but then like we have vendors sitting there just standing on planets with their helmets off. Like, hey, what's going on, guys?
I don't know. We'll save the Titan talk for another day because that is
Okay.
weird.
Okay, that needs its own episode.
Yeah, let's do that.
Although it feels like like a kind of a MythBusters. We need to go to Titan.
Yeah, we need to go to Titan and see if we can blow anything up. It's exactly like MythBusters.
Yeah.
So Titan, Helga brings up how Titan was planning an evacuation. And then in the next set of entries, 67, 68, we learn that the Traveler is actually on the move again. It's leaving from Io, coming to Earth, and Henriette is a little upset because she didn't take the news of Titan's evacuation seriously enough. It was clearly a sign that something was going to happen. And this is when they start really pushing for Project Niobe, which, as we all know now, is shooting symbols on walls.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Just to clarify, that is just a joke. Project Niobe is actually 801.
Yeah. So it's this idea of having a kind of a living forge. Is that
that was
right way to
the
phrase
hopes
it?
of Project Niobe, to have a forge, or have a forge and something that can enhance the forge weapons even further. That you can like have with you at all times, because obviously forges are kind of big, clunky. They would need transportation, whereas an exo just walks with you. And in the same entry, or in the same card, entry 68. So immediately after entry 67, 68, the Traveler leaves. 68. They're here. They are here. They are real. I can't believe we were so right and so wrong. To think that we could stop this, to say we were naive, would be an understatement. We didn't know their power, their strength. It's insurmountable. As they draw closer, all we can do is hide and hope that the facility doors will be strong enough. It's utter chaos out there. Too many put their faith in the Traveler. I don't know what sort of answers people expect from a gigantic ball in the sky. It remains silent as always. At least I'm with her. Being with family is what matters in the end. There is no more hope, only the screams of humanity. That is huge for like us, for nerds like us. Like,
yeah.
actual collapse happening right outside.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it's also pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, like I know I've heard different theories about what exactly happened during the collapse, and there's been a little bit of debate, I guess, around was there actually like an invading force, or was it just some kind of wall of darkness that came. But this actually sounds like there were
an invading force.
There was some creatures. It doesn't go into like a huge amount of well, there is more detail later on, but there was definitely something there, which is also corroborated by some of the stuff in Cade's journal. Now, Cade's journal is a bit more fragmented, but there are kind of illustrations in there that don't really match up with anything that we've seen.
It's kind of dark, shifty, demonic shape.
Yeah.
Immediately after 67, 68, we actually get 70, 71, 72. So we're missing 69, which is basically basically just like it's happening, I guess, the collapse. The point that you were saying, the theories, it just completely derailed me because I was like, oh god, I said that. The theories that you're talking about, like, was the darkness of force and everything, that's actually canonical theories. That's like in-game, in-universe theories, because even the Guardians don't know what happened during the collapse. And here we are getting these journal entries from the Black Armory. Like, does Zavala know now? Do the Vanguard know? Like, did Ada share this information with them, or is she like, that's mine?
I don't think
That's a
it's
good.
I don't think. I kind of believe that it's unavoidable. For when new information comes out like that, I don't think that. I mean, think about the Forge and where it went, and all the enemies and who all the other people who encountered. I mean, I know that like maybe some of the stuff Ada told us at the end isn't common knowledge, but
You see that there's an element though where like we've all read the Books of Sorrow, right?
But do the Books of Sorrow exist?
Yeah, like, and there's that line in one of the strikes. Which one is it? About the dam in the European Dead Zone. The reservoir. I can't remember. What's it called again? I don't know. Anyway, in that strike, at the end, Ghost is like, "Oh, Ikora mentioned something about the Books of Sorrow and that there are other
had sisters."
Yeah, and I know it's like, well, so what is who has read the Books of Sorrow?
Yeah,
like surely that should be required reading for. Like, everybody should be like, if you go to Guardian School, it's like, okay,
right.
Today we're studying Books of Sorrow.
It means you didn't do the raid.
Like we know the Books of Sorrow exist, but who read them? We know the Black Armory papers exist, but who read them? But then there's also like lore, like Volt said in the chat. There's also a part in the Maracena with the darkness and the light. Is the Maracena real? Is that something that she wrote down? Is that something that we've actually obtained? Is that something that anyone other than us has read? Is it just dramatic irony that we know and they don't know? Like, what is the line being drawn here? Because, like, actually getting these, like, kind of facts, getting these insights into what happened would be vital information for many of the operations moving forward.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I guess we don't know if the Vanguard have read these. Yeah. Okay.
I feel sad that Saladin doesn't remember me being a wolf.
I wondered if that was a bug, because there was a bug in Leviathan, the second raid dungeon in Leviathan. Was it Spire of Stars?
Spire of Stars was the second one.
That was the second dungeon.
Eater of Worlds.
Eater of Worlds, yes.
The Eater of Worlds, it had a bug in its audio where no matter what, it wouldn't actually give you veteran dialogue, where if you've completed Leviathan, you're supposed to get dialogue of Callus saying, like, I know these guardians, let them pass, but no matter what, you get, I've not met these guardians yet, let's see what they can do, or whatever the hell it is. Yeah.
So I did wonder if maybe there's a similar bug with Saladin where he's supposed to say, "Hello, young wolf," or something. I can't really do a Saladin impression, but
I mean, Cade mentions Cade used to mention how Saladin still calls us young wolf or whatever in the
Well, what does Shax say during the opening?
He also called us young wolf.
Yeah.
Saladin's young wolf. Like
it seems.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems odd that they would miss that, but maybe.
But they. This is really off topic. I don't even know how we got here. But the point of contention was that the fact that they called Saladin the last Iron Lord, which even if we are a new breed of Iron Lords, it's still accurate. He's the last Iron Lord because he was the one who survived, the one who carried on the torch. Like, even if there's more now, he's still technically the last.
Yeah.
That's a title that he earned by not dying.
And he's also a Forge.
Yeah.
You're right, yeah.
Also, I gotta call Bungie out because they made a joke about saying how Saladin was the first Forge because his full name is Saladin Forge. That's not accurate. Saladin Forge came in the at least the Dark Age. The Black Armory Forges were in the Golden Age. Do you not know your own timeline? What is going on here?
Boom.
I think
shots.
I think. Yeah, well, that's a very good point. Unless Saladin Forge was his name before he was
like somehow he actually
risen.
knew.
Yeah, maybe like Anna Bray, he was like wearing a name badge.
He was just like a janitor.
He used to carry a mop, and now it's an axe.
It's actually brilliant. Okay, anyway, Black Armory.
Let's stay on topic. Entry 70, 71, 72 kind of talks more about the collapse happening. 71 specifically says, last night we awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of something pounding on the walls. It roared and stomped and howled in frustration until it found the doors. They didn't hold. I never saw it. We were too occupied blindly firing around a corner. I just remember the smell of wet earth and the sound I've never heard before, like a machine being stretched and then compressed. Moving on, Helga died, and in entry 72, my daughter was injured during the attack. She's unconscious. I can't. So whatever actually came, whatever actually attacked, it was not messing around. It was there to do some damage, and it killed Helga, and the daughter was very badly hurt. She's still alive, but she's unconscious. The daughter being unnamed. Yeah, unnamed. She's unnamed.
At this point, the daughter's name hasn't been mentioned.
Yeah, I'll just leave it unnamed.
But so, what do you think about the creature that attacked, that smells like wet earth and sounds like a machine?
Well, I mean, it could be anything, really. Like, I mean, we don't know what anything in Destiny smells like. Although, saying that, you can buy Destiny scented candles. So maybe...
You know what? I have to argue with you. And yeah, maybe we don't know what smells like, but some exos can smell speed.
Yeah, but what does it smell like?
I think
like, what was it, 150 miles per hour?
I swear to God, there was concept art. I might just be imagining it. I don't know. I just have this this image of this very top heavy looming monster that's covered in moss.
Yeah,
I don't know why
that was some of the Hive concept art.
Was it?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure. I think it's on ArtStation somewhere. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but
yeah, no stress in it. I just did a quick Google search for it. I didn't see it. I don't know. I just have this image in my head that I've attached to Destiny somehow for whatever reason of this creature, very top heavy, very trap upside down trapezoid heavy on it, very wide shoulders, kind of small squat legs though. Just covered in moss, and that kind of feels accurate for wet earth smell.
Yeah. And
then there's also the iconic frog. Everyone likes that.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, so that's an obvious jump to for a lot of people when you start to hear about new things and they're being described. You start to envision all the things you've seen in concept art and heard about. And so a lot of people kind of go down that road. What is that?
Yeah.
Is it the big frog? Is it the big monster man with moss all over him? The swamp thing is basically what he looks like. He's a huge...
I found something. Shall I post it in the Twitch chat or in this chat? Or
yeah, let's post it in the Twitch chat.
Okay.
For people who are here live.
So a lot of these are...
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't know if any of these are actually relevant or used, but this is Destiny concept art.
That's him. Mm-hmm. That is when I hear the smell of wet earth, and that's what I imagine banging on. Because you have to think about it. These are like 8-foot doors, probably, right? Like industrial metal doors, and it couldn't get through the walls. But when it got to the door, it took them out. It has to be something big and powerful, and that looks big and powerful.
Yeah,
like bigger than a Minotaur, standard Minotaur.
Mm-hmm. I often forget how big some of the enemies are in Destiny. Even standing next to like an acolyte.
Yeah, they're pretty big. Yeah, even the small ones, even the thralls are pretty large by.
Yeah.
They're just hunched over. What's funny is one of the raid architects was talking about this on, what was it, the Bungie live stream where they were talking the Last Wish raid. He was describing why they make certain decisions based around how large an enemy is, because if you obviously scale everything up to match the bigness of the encounter, well, then the center focus enemy that's in the room becomes much smaller to you. So to keep everything feeling larger, they make the environment smaller. And so like with the fight with Riven, he had to be, almost to where he couldn't fit in the room.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they would use, if to say that the moss creature was actually the creature of the darkness, the thing that would return. I feel like they would use that in the opposite way. They would purposefully make it larger, and like larger than the Hive, larger than the Vex, larger than the Fallen and the Cabal, so that when you do see it, it makes everyone else feel smaller, and it's like, oh god, that's a real threat. Because
it's possible.
Like that's their ground troops, like not even their boss. That's
But I mean, I remember, with the Taken King, Bungie did a really good job of making the Taken feel a lot more. Immediately, when you looked at them, you could tell that they were more dangerous than their non-Taken equivalents.
Yeah, because the captains just threw a blinding ball of death at you.
Yeah.
On repeat.
But I mean, they didn't do that by making those enemies bigger. They did it by they had a really clear visual style for how they tied all of the Taken together, and it made them, they felt threatening. So I don't, I expect that if we do see another race, there'll be some visual, whether it's by making them bigger or maybe there's other technique that they might use.
I would imagine multiple techniques.
Yeah, probably.
What if we could get, because so far the only enemy that really has any change is the Vex. You can shoot a Vex hobgoblin or goblin head off. What if we actually got another enemy that you can shoot parts off of, like if you could actually, let's shoot off its head or its arms, just simple things, not its leg and now it's hopping or crawling around, but part of its method of attack. So if it was the moss thing and it has a very arm based attack, so you can shoot off its arms, but now it's got a rushing attack, it is entirely about charging you, and so it becomes don't shoot off the arms, because then you're just gonna have him on you the entire time.
That's a good point about the Vex. They are the only race at the moment that you can shoot and then they change behavior based on your actions.
Well, Hive change behavior. They get enraged.
But they don't
physically change.
It's almost as though a goblin with a head and a goblin without a head
are different.
They're almost completely different enemies, really. Whereas you don't really have that with anybody else, and that's a really cool little feature.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So this creature, we'll assume it is the Moss Man, comes. Creatures, they just systematically like wipe out the human race. Basically, that's what they're here for. They're here just to kill us all.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, based on everything that we understand, the reason that they didn't would be the Traveler, right? It's the Traveler pushed out its beam of light or whatever, and it knocked everything back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it's interesting because that wasn't enough. So let's say there was this wave of creatures,
Like a force push.
Well, let's say there's this armada of creatures that arrive in our solar system, and they start attacking everything, and they're on Earth, and they are, just attacking. The Traveler, fires this beam of light, probably kind of similar to what we saw at the end of the Destiny 2 campaign, and pushes back the darkness. And we have accounts of that from the Mara Senna, at least the perspective of what happened out in the middle of space. But it wasn't enough. So that pushed back this particular armada, but it wasn't enough to stop the Fallen and the Hive and the Cabal and the Vex. Well, okay, forget about the Vex, but the three races that we hadn't seen in our system up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
And there are accounts of things like the Hive on the moon during the collapse.
Yeah.
Do you think they burrowed into the moon to protect themselves from that?
I don't know. I mean, it's...
Or those were the ones that just survived, the ones that were already burrowed.
I mean, my...
How does the force of light only knock out those specific enemies then? Because basically what you're saying is that shouldn't it have killed literally everything, including humans? It feels like the Traveler can kind of designate what it was hitting. It's like the moss creatures, and that's actually a point I want to make. The anomaly, the actual anomaly that was outside of Earth, got knocked back by the Traveler's light, so it never actually made it to Earth. Were the moss creatures and the anomaly separate forces that just happened at the same point?
Or is it like Darkness Zone, or things that were previously touched or encountered by, or things that previously encountered or touched the light were somehow immune to that force push?
But I mean, like humans weren't. I guess we don't know how blessed by the Traveler individual humans were. My impression is that they weren't really given any special.
I mean, Henriette here says how it's even during the collapse, it's not doing anything. It's just being quiet. It's not answering any calls. It's not actually helping anyone. And as the story goes on, they leave the lab, and ultimately, all those creatures aren't there. But there's a new evil that they have to face. So something happened before the lab and after the lab. There's something like in that middle where all the creatures are gone.
Yeah.
So to continue, essentially, they're still in the lab at this point, at entries 92, 93, 94, 95. And ultimately what's happening is the daughter, Henriette's daughter, is dying. The only way they can save her is for Yuki to take her consciousness and put it into an exoframe. So that's how we get Ada 1. It's Henriette's daughter, and Henriette is kind of racist against exos in the beginning. So for her to do this, it's like very substantial. It's very like, this is the only way to save my daughter. I need to not be bigoted, I guess, is the best word for it. And at the end of 95, I buried her remains this morning. Yuki and I had a short ceremony. No time to look back. We had to leave. So that's when they leave. That's right when they leave the labs. and it goes from 95 to 100. And they were hiding in the labs. They were hiding from a creature that was like hunting them, and now the creatures are gone. Now there's just no more.
It says in entry 94, it says we can't stay here. They're going to attack again, and this time we won't make it. So they think, well, I mean, maybe the creature is still outside, or I don't know.
I mean, I just feel like it would be unavoidable if the creatures were still there. They, at this point, in my opinion, they're paranoid. They're like, it's going to attack again, and we're not going to make it. But during that point, they were already gone. So they're only paranoid because they feel like it's too quiet. It hasn't attacked yet. It's going to attack again, though. So we need to leave before it attacks again. Because if the creature was there, they only seem to attack at night. That's one of their like caveats. They only seem to attack at night. So they had to leave in the morning.
That would be an interesting. Imagine if there was a new race, and they only attacked when it was dark. That would be weird, wouldn't it?
That would be really weird because Destiny doesn't really emphasize. I know that it does have day-night cycles, but it doesn't really emphasize the day-night cycle.
You're right, but I mean that could be. Obviously, this is like massive speculation, but like,
it's where it belongs.
Yeah, I mean, but why couldn't they? Why couldn't they have a? Every planet has a day-night cycle, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, why not make use of that?
Because that would be a pain.
It would be a pain, but maybe it would also be kind of, I don't know, like I remember playing, like from the Taken King onwards, there were certain areas where I was just like, oh god, I can't be bothered to play against the Taken. They're so annoying at times.
And that's what I mean. Like, at what point does it stop being cool and start being a pain? Like, what if people hate playing against them? And it's like every map at nighttime just gets overrun by them, and it's like you have games like Dying Light where the zombies in the game like go nuts at night, and it's like when I used to play that, I'm like, well, I'm just not fucking going out at night. Like, I'm not putting myself through that. That is horrible.
Yeah. Okay, so they are leaving the lab.
They've left the lab. It's noon and the trucks are finally loaded. A late start. Dead crows on the ground this morning. A bad omen. Dead crows on the ground. Nice. Moving on. The Exos have
I've just realized this is in the crows category and it really shouldn't be. Let me just fix it.
The Exo has so many questions for me. I have some for her too, but our current situation isn't the time or the place. We took fire on the road this afternoon. Fortunately, they were not as heavily armed as we were. My fears of putting weapons in the hands of everyone have come true. Humans just can't be trusted. We have the same enemies, you idiots. Even as the bones of civilization are picked clean, we continue to fight each other. So now the enemy very quickly shifted from these possibly Mossman to humans. There's this people who see you. You have a truck. That's transportation. That's protection. We want that truck. We want you dead so we can take that truck. Civilization has effectively crumbled in what would feel like, when did it start? 68 is when the collapse officially started, and we are here in entry 100. If she wrote an entry every day, that's a month.
Yeah, but it's not even an entry every day. Like there are several entries from the same day at some points. I think this is more like a matter of days,
weeks, and people have just crumbled to this. And especially because they mention how the moss creatures attack only at night, and they're so paranoid about it coming back. It feels like they might have had a week of safety. Then it discovers them. Then they had a couple days of silence where it was knocked out. And so, like, this couldn't have been more than... This absolutely could not have been more than a month. My bet would be somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm.
What about you guys? What do you think? Like at this
I would
point?
bet. I agree that that's kind of like the max in my mind. I think this could be a week, maybe even a few days.
Yeah.
Like some of the entries seem to almost follow on, like as if she wrote one in the morning and one in the afternoon and one in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
which would mean it's almost like like the monsters attack, then my daughter's injured. Those must have been really close together, So
Yeah. That couldn't be. You don't wait 2 days to say, oh no, my daughter's injured, she's unconscious.
Yeah.
Like, you're not checking on your
Exactly.
daughter.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
I'm getting a very
I feel as though this is over the course of a few days.
Rhino?
I was saying I'm getting a very I Am Legend vibe.
I love I Am Leg.
Is that a different film?
No.
Okay.
It's just a meme.
Mm.
I really don't want to get off topic again, but
Okay.
that
Right,
film,
It's
that
so
film,
easy.
I do actually love that scene in the film where he's yelling at the mannequin. Like, that is one of my favorite Will Smith scenes ever. Like, in everything he's ever been in, that, like, I can watch that one over and over.
I'd like to read the book. I've heard the book's very good. That
There's
it's
a book?
based on. Yeah, it was based on a book.
Huh.
But it's kind of it's similar in some respects, but not in others.
Mm.
They took a lot of like liberties when
As they
adapting
do.
it. Mhm.
So then,
Okay.
moving on, we go from entry 101 to 104. Well, today was horrible. We had some downtime, so Yuki wanted to test the Exo's new functionality. This was the entire purpose of the Exo in the first place, Project Niobe. Helga's great experiment to make her weapons more deadly through a sort of on-the-spot phase transition of the guns. In other words, a walking, talking forge. Years ago, now see, this is the interesting thing. Years ago, it was just an idea. So that's saying years ago is entry like 25. So you go from 25 to 20 to 60, 67, and from 67 to 101.
Mm-hmm. So even if we did go with that longer estimate of like a month or even like a couple of months, the spacing between entry numbers cannot be equal.
No,
Because
they are very
because it's like-
sporadic.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I got distracted. 105. So
Well, even in 104,
Yeah.
I think this is
Thank
kind
you.
of the turning point. So we were sloppy. While the Exo practiced using her ability, we were ambushed by, I don't even know what they were. They were definitely not regular humans. They had abilities that the rest of us don't. We took one down, we thought, but then his little red drone lit up and he was on his feet again. Which sounds like
So this is kind of a pivotal point. This is pretty clearly the Dark Age. It's no longer the collapse. The collapse has ended
Yeah.
because the Traveler, and that's kind of what I'm saying. There's no longer moss creatures, and there now is Risen. That was what the Traveler did. In its dying breath, it released the ghosts. Blah blah blah. Made the Risen, and Risen didn't start out good.
Yeah, I mean, to in their defense, at this point there's no Vanguard and there's no framework.
Yeah.
So the Nibiru just said, why didn't their ghosts tell them to be good? And this is kind of, something that I think's really, really interesting, and I'd love Bungie to explore this even further because, the warlords that the Risen became, kind of, if you imagine kind of like medieval Europe, where you have these lords that take over the different areas of land and kings, and a lot of the things that they did were terrible.
Well,
But
barbaric.
barbaric. But they did a lot of the things that they did with the intention of protecting their
That's-
people.
that's the hardest thing for people to grasp when you're looking on past history, is that these people, like for instance the Vikings and their culture and how they existed, it's horrifying compared to the way we live our sterile, mushy body lives. But at the time they were it amidst a very violent environment.
Yeah.
Do you think it's in part because of the world that they woke up to? They didn't just wake up. They didn't wake up to humanity is hiding in this city and they need your protection. These are aliens that are trying to kill them. They woke up to everyone is trying to kill you.
Yes,
it's like Mad
definitely.
Max. You're like, what in the world do? I just have to have to survive.
You see that human? He's your enemy. You see that monster? He's your enemy. Kill them all.
Yeah.
Like that's what they woke up to.
Well, you don't know, and you can't trust anybody when you're encountering. Yeah.
And there's no framework in place either. If you think about the era that our Guardian was resurrected into, we have, our ghosts. Yeah, let's get you to the city so you can find out what it means to be a Guardian. There's no place for these first of all, there's no. I doubt many of the warlords or the Risen had working jump ships at this point. They have been thrown into the midst of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I guess the ultimate intention of a Guardian, the thing that would be like seated inside them, would be to save humanity. Are people who are trying to kill you a part of said humanity then?
Well, I think even if they are, imagine you're resurrected and you live in this world that has just gone through an unbelievable change and people are incredibly paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to treat you with the utmost suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
And even if your goal is to protect these people, like if you look at Jaron Ward, right? When Jaron Ward arrived at Palamon, now Jaron Ward is a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't go around killing a bunch of people, but he didn't need to kill the leader of the town. What's his name again?
Magistrate Loken.
Yeah, Magistrate Loken. He didn't need to kill Magistrate Loken, really. Like, he didn't need to do it, but he made a judgment that this is in order to save the town, in order to free these people from their corrupt leader, I'm going to kill that leader.
Yeah.
Because
otherwise, if he just took Magistrate Loken with them, like on the pilgrimage to the city, any misstep Jaren makes, Loken's gonna be like, "Can you believe he just did that? We're following this guy. Are you serious?"
Right,
and he's gonna bring them back under him and betray Jaren. He's gonna screw it.
Yeah, and now that fate. Now we don't know exactly when that took place, but we can say for certain that the entries that we're reading about now were a lot earlier than that. Like this is immediately after the collapse, and I think that there's probably, it's hard to imagine what you would do if you were put into that situation, but you'd probably think, look, there's a group of people that I'm protecting, and these guys have guns, and I don't know if I can trust them, so maybe I should shoot them and ask questions later. So I can get back to protecting the people that I actually care about. Like the warlords were all about fiefdoms and taking care of the people that they wanted to take care of.
And like
tribes.
At some point, without any like real moral touchstone, it's easy to lose yourself. People start looking at you like a god. You start looking at yourself like a god. And when you see people with the power to kill a god, you're starting to get afraid because you're like, well, I don't want to die. At some point, it stops even being protect people and just protect yourself.
Yeah. That's what happened to Rezel. I mean, he got so infected by his own hubris and decided that he was doing. I mean, you get these abilities and these powers, and you're starting to realize that, hey, I'm much more than I am much more than everybody says I am. But at the same point, you get to an apathetic state where you're just viewed as a god by your under people. So you take that for, and so you have to make a decision when you get that power. do I want to see and ensure that humanity succeeds and goes forward in a peaceful way, or do I want to dominate everything that's around me and become even greater? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have to make that decision when they get powerful. I mean, for the Iron Lord, they had to fight the other warlords that were jockeying for that position
Mm-hmm.
of power.
Yeah.
And so they created the Iron Lords, you know.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good question. So thanks for asking that, the Nibiru. It's a good one.
So to kind of get back on track, essentially, the Risen that they're fighting killed a bunch of them, hurt Yuki, and now, entry 105, we traveled all night to put as much distance between us and our attacker as possible. The Exo is carrying Yuki now. It's clear she doesn't have long. But so then now they're traveling at night. Like, clearly, the creatures are no longer there. Night would be the most dangerous time to make any type of move, and they're just running from Risen. I mean, it might have been like stay still and die or move and die, so they're like, we're gonna die either way, but it just there is a direct absence of the creatures entirely.
Yeah, that's pretty spectacular when you think about it. Like, what are these guys? You know, why can't they move during the daytime, the daylight, or whatever? Why can they only at night?
Moving on to entries 108, 109, 110. You know, the Guardian finds them again. Eventually, Yuki lies and says that she has the Obsidian Accelerator and that it was in her backpack. The Obsidian Accelerator is the thing that makes Ada so powerful. It makes her the walking, talking forge. So she goes to the men. The man approached her cautiously as she quickly looked at me. That one last look, the same one that had calmed me down so many times. She reached for her backpack as the man drew near. The Exo grabbed me and gave me cover as the grenade exploded, shielding me from the flaming shrapnel. Then she helped me up and we ran. I looked back once. The man's red drone was shining its terrible light about the carnage, looking for its master. He'll be up again. He knows what she can do. He will be looking for us. Yuki, I'm so sorry. So Yuki ultimately just kills herself to give them more time to get away. It's not even effective to killing the Risen as well. It's just we need more time to run. So I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's this is one of the most brutal stories that has ever been told in Destiny.
Yeah. It is. And it's interesting as well, just to go back to the point of view of the Risen in there. You know, he might be threatening. I'm not saying he's a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, like he comes to them kind of saying, look, if you think of it from the perspective of somebody who wants to be able to protect others, he's like, I need to be given a fighting chance because there are fallen coming or whatever else. Like I want to have better weapons to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, he doesn't know this group. This group is clearly also attacking him. They did kill him. His ghost just brought him back. Like, it's not like they're saying, please stop killing us and just running. They are fighting him back.
Yeah. Not that I'm defending him.
Yeah.
He's still a jerk.
I mean, you totally are.
Well, I kind of am. But you know what I mean.
All right. Wow, we've got a lot left, and we're coming close on the time.
We can do it. 12 minutes. Go.
No, we cannot do it. that's
we can do it. I believe it. We could do it.
We've covered the gist and the meat. So yeah, now it's just about what happened at the end.
We're like literally halfway through.
I mean,
where are we?
Okay, let's keep going. I think you're right. I don't think we're gonna get to the end.
We're halfway through, and I think this is a good point for us to kind of stop the Black Armory papers talk.
All right.
Okay.
So we can kind of just like wrap up where we are, and we can pick up on this. And can everyone do while we're here? Can everyone do February 3rd?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Awesome. Hopefully we'll have Guardian back then as well. So we have 10 minutes. Let's just kind of keep the conversation going about it, because essentially what's happening is the remaining members of the Black Armory are doing everything they can to keep 801 safe, because she is, in their mind, vital to the survival of the human race. And when they see the Risen, he is one of the possible extinctions of the human race, like kind of like both sides fighting for the same thing, not realizing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do think we can cover the other entries that are in entry. There's not much more there, but entry 110 is kind of interesting.
Okay.
1111110.
110.
She and I spent the night under the wing of a crashed jet. I realize now as I write this that I haven't seen a plane in the sky, not once since we set out. This is not the world I knew. Every time I look at her, I'm thinking about it. This is not the world I knew. Which is quite a sad... I mean, this is... In all of these entries so far, Henriette refers to the EXO as the EXO.
Mm-hmm. Never as her daughter's name. Never as 801.
Never even as my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no compassion towards the EXOs.
And it's odd,
was this the right thing to do?
Yeah. Now, I don't know how much EXOs were used during... There are a lot of EXOs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we keep on meeting them. And I don't think any new EXOs have been made since the Golden Age.
So we kind of glazed over it. Early on in the Black Armory's history, they were kind of starting to work with Clovis Bray, and it insinuated that the Black Armory and Clovis Bray kind of had the same idea. Both felt something was going to happen. Both felt they wanted to be ready. Clovis Bray said, let's create an army of EXOs so they can do our fighting for us. Black Armory said, let's create weapons so that we can fight fire with fire. And so there was probably quite a few EXOs out there. But yeah, I would agree that they've stopped production, because without Clovis Bray, who's making the EXOs?
Yeah.
It's clear that Henriette is very torn up about everything that's happening. Like, she lost her daughter, and in a moment of grief, she gave the order to make her daughter an EXO. And even now, she doesn't really look at the EXO as her daughter. She doesn't look at 801 as her daughter.
Yeah. She has yet to accept that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, who did you do it for? What was making your daughter an EXO for you or for her? Because with it,
right, exactly.
with her just kind of abandoning Ada, it feels like it was just for her, and even now she's not happy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess there are a lot of parents, I suspect, who, if their child was dying and there was some way to keep their consciousness alive, they would do anything to achieve that. But there's something about EXOs that obviously, I mean, as you say, maybe it is just kind of a racism.
It's not your daughter,
thing.
though.
Well, you're right. It isn't. And this is the... EXOs are kind of strange.
Yeah.
In that, is Cade 6 the same person? Well, was Cade 6 the same person he was before he was an EXO?
Even he, as an EXO, questions that. He in his journal entries and everything. The what was it? Letters from the Wild. That we used to get. He would say I don't know what I was when I was human. One day One day I woke up and I found this journal and I thought that sounded good and I just kind of went with it. I don't know if Ace is real. I don't know if anything I'm writing is real. I just keep writing it, hoping that no matter what happens to me in the future, I won't become bad. And it's like this grasping at humanity that an exo has. And do all exos have that feeling? Like, do they all feel like I'm not human, but I want to be human? And they all want to like grasp on to something that makes them human?
Well, this has been a topic going way back in the past into all kinds of sci-fi novels. Where does the human consciousness actually lie within the mind or the body or the anima, the spirit, whatever you want to call it? If you're a risen guardian, are you still of the framework and makeup that was you before you were risen? And it's just a matter of being a product of your environment. Are you still going to rise to those same decision-making sets that you had in your previous life, or when you revive your child, to say like for instance in the horror flick Pet Sematary, is that really your kid, or is it just an undead supernatural being that really doesn't care about anything? These things have always been a mystery in sci-fi culture as to where does that part of you begin and where does the new part of you end when you're resurrected.
I think a good kind of like example of this is that Netflix series, I don't think it really took off, Altered Carbon, where they essentially have fake human bodies and you can like upload your mind into them and everything. Like in the beginning, in the first 5 or 10 minutes of it, there's like all the altered carbon, the fake humans walking out of the facility, and there's this like older I think it was like an older Asian woman walking up to a mother and a father, and she's like, "Mom, Dad, it's me." And they're looking at her like, "What happened to our 9-year-old daughter? Why do we have this like 60-year-old woman claiming to be our daughter now?" And it's like, it's not your daughter. Your daughter died, and you're just not letting go.
Well, the coolest part about that flick was the clones that were made of themselves that were living before the consciousness transferred over to those clone bodies. Those clone bodies were very much people before they got their consciousness supplanted in them. And
I never stuck with it.
Well,
I'm just saying, like, specifically the idea of transferring your daughter's consciousness into a foreign body. It's not your child anymore. You'll never look at it the same way.
You only watched that one scene, didn't you?
Well, that's an outward appearance. You got to think about what about the interior appearance too.
Yeah.
Like, what if you were, okay, this is a sci-fi topic too. Like, what if you were made to be someone's body in the future, and you're out here living this entire life, and then one day somebody's going to come in with a big, claw.
What is this, House of the Scorpion?
It's going to pick you up off of the ground, and it's going to say, "Hey, it's time for you to be the new host body for this person who grew you." So everything one of the things in your life is gone.
If we think, so going back to exos, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at, let's say, we talk about like transferring consciousness, but let's say they put something on your head, right, and it copies all your brain waves and puts it into a robot body. Let's say they did that to Henriette's daughter, and then somehow she has a miraculous recovery. Like, did they pull the brain? Like, when you copy your consciousness into an exo, does it delete it from your brain? I don't see why it would. So if it doesn't delete it from your brain, is there not still a person wandering around?
I feel like it would have to have irreversible surgery to transfer.
Why?
Why not?
But what? Okay, no. If you move a file from one, if you move data from one place to another,
it's
right?
Our brains aren't computers, though; they're organic.
Okay, but exobrains are computers. They're not organic.
How do you copy over a human brain without? I don't even know.
Yeah, but the answer to that question does not. However you transfer thoughts out of a human brain into an electronic brain, no matter which way you do it, whether it's through surgery or whether it's through some device connected to the brain, that doesn't necessarily mean that the brain is going to get erased in the process. That's not the way data transfer works anywhere. It has never worked that way. Now, I understand, an organic data store is not going to behave the same as a physical, mechanical data store. But I don't see why the principles of data transfer would be any different. Just because you take the data from one place and you put it somewhere else doesn't mean you lose the data at the original location. Which means I can't think of a good scientific reason why when you create an exo version of someone, the original physical person would disappear.
I've actually thought very similar. I've thought about that about Cade. Like, is there actually a human Cade? Could they have just copied? Like, what if exos aren't actually humanized, are just humanized robots? There's no actual like transfer of consciousness. There's just transfer of memory.
Yeah,
like copy.
And I don't see why that couldn't be the case.
I could.
Well,
it's starting to argue in like a really silly like, oh well, I think this fake science is this, and I think this fake science is this. It's like, well, we don't really know, do we?
In the world of sci-fi, they always say that. Well, like their explanation is always that once the final node of anima is transferred into the next host body or whatever it is in the book that you're reading, it once that final node happens, the other one is just unstable and just dissipates or deletes itself, or it's no longer, because the mysterious element that creates life and creates your anima, once that is gone, the essence of you is gone, the previous host body is just it's no more, like whatever you was.
I agree, but only if as Bibletron says, only if it's a cut and paste and not a copy and paste.
Right.
Like, and I don't see why it would be a cut and paste. Like, why? That's not how when you transfer.
Well, one way to.
But they weren't as human as the actual human exos that we
right.
now are.
Right, but we don't know. Here's one possibility, and obviously this is speculation because we don't have a clue about any of this. But let's say Cade, the original guy who was Cade before he was an exo, was in debt to Clovis Bray, and Clovis Bray says, "I want your brainwaves." Right? And that is how you will pay your debt. So Cade says, all right, okay. So they take his brainwaves and they make an exo, and the regular Cade's, the human Cade's debts are paid, and he's like, cool, I'm going to go back to my son Ace and live the rest of my life now that I'm out of debt. Maybe I'll take up gambling again. And the exo Cade doesn't have any idea that the human Cade no longer exists.
The question
he thinks he is the original Cade, but he's turned into a robot.
The question is, are exos Destiny's version of Cybermen from Doctor Who? In which case, the human is consumed. No, I'm not making a joke. I'm like serious.
Yeah, I know, but that's the most worrying part of this.
Yeah,
continue.
Is the human body consumed to make the exo mind? That's the question.
Are servitors Daleks?
Oh my goodness.
Are Vex Daleks?
Maybe.
What if Cade?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, Vex are more like Daleks than servitors.
Servitors are like fat cats.
What if Cade was actually Andal?
Who would the Blorgons be?
The what?
Blorgons.
Blorgons.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going.
Don't.
I thought you would get that reference.
I got it. I just don't appreciate the crossing of streams.
I mean, it's not really. We've crossed so many streams. It's too late.
You're too late.
Wait, I got one for you. This is a theoretical scientific experiment that happened now still, and one of the things was if you're sitting in your chair, Anon, and you're sitting in your chair, Baxter, and then we start transferring Anon cells to you and your cells to Anon one by one until eventually we are at a halfway point. At which point does Anon become you and you become Anon? Is it at 100%, 50%, or at 1?
I think that is a very good philosophical question. But I don't think, you see, like, okay, if we take that question and we apply it to exos, if you take a human and you replace one of a human's neurons with an electronic neuron, right? You would still say that it was the same brain, and you can keep on doing that until the whole brain has been consumed and it's all an electronic brain. In which case, it's still the same brain. It's just now that it's electronic. But that isn't how exos work. We don't turn one of those neurons into an electronic neuron. There is a separate machine that a human's consciousness is transferred into. It's not like exos have a human brain inside them, or it's not even like we take a human brain and we turn all the neurons into electrons. At least that's my understanding of how exos work.
All I know is that John dies at the end, and we are at the end of our time.
Poor John.
Yeah. That book was full of spiders. It was crazy. Does anyone have any closing statements they'd like to make on Black Armory or Exo, since that's where we got?
There's some good discussion in the chat, but I feel as though my brain is fried. I feel like I need an exo brain to take over from my human brain.
To answer Bibletron's question, what was that in just a bunch of words, letters, tweet about yesterday? That tweet was important, and I don't think anyone solved it. Everyone's saying they have, but I don't think anyone has. Anything else, guys? You good? We good?
I'm good.
All right. Our next show, hopefully with Guardian, will be on February 3rd at the same time. If you want to find us on Twitter, we are at Loose Canon Show. Loose Canon with one N, show. Or two N's, but CANON.
Yeah. No adjacent N's.
Yeah. Justin with an O. All right. Bye.
Cool. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
How do I stop this?